Alright, Cryptids, what is going on? It is me, Mississippi Gonzo Grown, JK Rip Redcorn. How y'all doing today on this fine Super Bowl Sunday as I will be talking to y'all about the good stuff. I'll be talking to y'all about good stuff such as football, my experiences with football and everything else, and other foolishness. Alright, so I have made it known in the past that I did play football, but I just never took the game seriously because, it just came off as a bunch of, nonsense, really. I never understood that, like, people that take football seriously, especially, like, college football or even high school football seriously, it's like, you can tell those are the people that they never really left that life behind. They never grew up. Which, that's actually kind of sad that there's a lot of grown people that they ain't never left their high school days, and it's like, I'm sorry though, but this is the age of the, it's time for you to be an adult. But why should I be an adult? Because you're 43, jackass, you dipstick, you jive turkey. But anyway, such as it is, I call somebody a jive turkey. Some of y'all are going to be sitting there like, you must have been watching a 70s sitcom. I probably was watching one earlier where they did call somebody a jive turkey. The dad walks in and he's like, you jive ass turkey, but that's beside the point. Even though they didn't say ass back then, Well, I guess they kind of did depending on what time slot the show came on, but, I'm not going to get into that, Let's just move on. So, the big one that I'm talking about, like even I live in the South, and all these, redneck good old boys and these jackasses down here, they all take high school football seriously, and it's like, most of y'all hated high school. Why are you taking this crap seriously? That was just such a bizarre thing. It's like, yeah, I hated my high school, but I'm going to be out here supporting them anyway because of the football game and all that. Okay, whatever you say, Haystacks Calhoun, but, let's continue. And, plus that, it's always this whole dumb stuff, and plus that, even when it comes down to, like, sports with, teens, young adults, kids, the parents just seem to make asses out of themselves, and it's like, you're not the one that's playing, that's them. That's like, we've all seen video footage of parents fighting at kids' sports games, and it's like, what is wrong with y'all? Y'all acting like damn old trash out here. I'll turn into Boomhauer right quick. Man, look at y'all out here dang all that like dang old trailer trash, man, just trashy. According to my friend Ranger, he says I can pull a damn good Boomhauer. I don't know. I just don't know. But, this ain't about me, doing voiceovers where I start talking like Boomhauer. But, I do have to be careful about enunciating my words and slowing down, because if not, it will sound like I belong on a NASCAR track speaking fluent banjo. And sometimes if I speak a little bit too fast or get a little bit too excited, the Cajun will jump out of me. It's like, well, what happens if you get mad? Then I start speaking tribe's language. I start speaking, a tribal language. I'll start, I'll start speaking my tribe's language, That's also another thing. I'm also native, so, I just don't put any stock into it. It's like it's just a part of who I am. No side takes greater precedence over the other one, which is kind of stupid. People trying to pick one side over the other when it's like, well, technically I am both. I am not only Cajun and German, but I'm also native, so why would I ever deny one half over the other? Which makes no sense. Some people just try to pick one side over the other because it's like, oh, it just makes me sound more exotic. And it's like, no, I just say that I'm both because it's who I am. So, for those of y'all wondering what game this is Madden 10. Because I'm too lazy to go out and buy the newer Maddens, and even then the newer Maddens kind of play like ass anyway. So I just don't really care for having any of the new Maddens because it's all the same crap and garbage anyway, just repackaged. Which is kind of sad though, because they can make the game better and better and better, but it's like, oh yeah, here's the same prepackaged BS we gave you last year. It's because it's like COD. It's the same game as last year. And they're kind of running out of ideas for Call of Duty. What's the other one? Well, I just like the older Maddens because they hold up very well. The really old Madden games hold up very well, compared to compared to now. These games just hold up way better. That's just the one thing about old games in general. They just seem to hold up much better as compared to now. Now, any other sports I'll mention? Well, yeah. I did play basketball, but I never really played in any basketball games. Because, for some reason, they just couldn't get the team up off the ground. And at that point, we were just playing basketball just to get in extra PE exercise. It's extra physical activities. Which I didn't mind because, I liked physical activity. It was the best part of the day. Back in elementary school, it was the best part of the day. Recess and PE, especially if it was on both. There was also the other big one, and that was the big one. The big one about, I remember we had an hour for recess, but then it started getting less and less and less. And then we had one teacher, she wouldn't take us outside for recess anyway. And one of the parents went and complained to the principal about it, and then the principal was just looked at the teacher and said, "Take these kids outside for recess, please." And she was just like, okay. She didn't want to. She was, talking about the heat index. And he's like, "Ma'am, it's going to be hot. You live in Mississippi. Welcome to hell's front doorstep." And this was when school started. I didn't like it because they started making us go to uniforms, and I hated it. Because they were talking about, strangers in schools. And it's like, what strangers? We're in elementary. And plus that, who in the hell is going to come up here and bother this place? A cop lives right next door to the school. And he works night shift. If there's an issue, he'll be one of the first ones over here. Which was actually something because whenever that tornado came close to the school, he was actually there first. Which, I'll probably do the tornado special. That's actually something, though. Some of you are going to ask, are you going to do a video where you talk about tornadoes? Probably with my friends Slade, Crazy Man, and Diesel. With those three. Because Diesel's got tornado stories. I got them. Slade has more flood stories than tornadoes because, he lives in Ohio, so they barely get them. Logan's got snowstorm story, so there's that. But I figured I'd go on about this whole football thing, which, basketball didn't really last that long, but, I'll try to get an NBA 2K game just so that way I can play the NBA stuff and, talk about basketball at the same time. But, that was my experience with basketball. Do I play basketball this day and age? Yeah, basketball is my cardio. Because, I have 5 things I do for cardio. Basketball, jump rope, well, I forget the other ones, but, anyway, that's the ones right there. Oh, polymetrics, that's what it is. Basically, all right, now that the list came back into my head, this is what happens when you take one too many chair shots to the head. Yeah, not exactly a great idea, but, that and probably a couple of horse riding accidents. In fact, I'm still kicking and breathing. We'll let that sink in. So, my top 5 cardio that I do, in no order. Basketball, jump rope, and polymetrics. I count those as 2. Bag work, the treadmill, hill climbers, and the exercise bike. Those are my 5 right there. That's what I do. That's what I do in terms of my cardio. Excuse me. So, moving on. Talking about my cardio and all that. There is the other stuff, too. So, I still play basketball this day and age, but it's usually I just do a bunch of basketball exercises and, still try to work on that ball handling. There's a couple of guys that want me to play at a street ball team with them, but it's I don't want to play in no street ball team with y'all. Why not? What if one of the guys on the other team has a switch? And it's oh, bro, they would not. And I'm I'm not going to find out. But I'm tempted to play because there is money on the line. There's some money on the line, so I'm tempted to play it. I'll just be sure to tell them the next time I see them on Monday. Because they want me to play with them because, I was dribbling. I got some ball control. And plus that, I think it's also because I can do a three-point, is that I'm a really good three-point shooter. I don't do layups and dunks. I just shoot it. And some of you are like, bro, if the other team got shooters, ain't you going to shoot too? You think I want to get in trouble over some dumb shit? And plus that, shooting people over a basketball game that's just dumbass behavior. That's dumb jackass behavior 101. It's like, what are you doing shooting somebody over a game? Which, funny, I actually knew somebody that got into a fight over a football game. This was actually at a game I was playing in. Like, we're all out there playing the game. We go, sit on the bench. Because it was, the end of the quarter. And then all of a sudden, we look up in the stands, and there's, 2 adults fighting. And we're all trying to figure out, hey, man, whose people that is? Whose people that is? Oh, whose uncle is that? Whose daddy is that? And we're all looking on the team to see who's looking away quick, and then we just come to find out, okay, that's just random people fighting in the stands for dumbass reasons. But, finally at that point, I was just so sick and tired of playing football because it was just one big ego stroke. So I ended up leaving. Because they were asking, you going to play again next year? I said, nope, I'm going to go do rodeo. Which, funny enough, I did do rodeo from the time I was old enough to walk, doing little kids events, and then as I got older, I did other stuff. And funny enough, I was actually really good at the rodeo stuff, but at that point, I was also kind of sick of doing it and football. And then at that point, I just got sick of doing both. I did do wrestling, I did do powerlifting, but I could save those for other topics. But, such as it is, and I'll be moving on. There was the one instance where I did get, or almost got drafted by another school. And I was in 6th grade at the time, and we were playing a team out of Jackson, Mississippi. Yeah, we got blown out of the water on that one, but, I gave my best at that. I was keeping up with the other team. I don't know what everybody else was doing. And as soon as it went on, so it goes on. Sorry, I had to yawn right quick. So it goes on. And after the game was up, the coach of the other team comes up to me, and he's shaking my hand, and he says, I want you to play for my school. I'm like, okay, I'm not sure why you want me to play for your school, but thanks anyway. And it was really just because, hey, I was a big guy. When coaches see some big kid walk in, they're like, I want that big boy for my team. They'll do that. Like, coaches see one of them great big old guys walk in, them big country cornbread, chitlin eating motherfuckers walk in, and here they come up, trying to draft you. And yes, I have ate chitlins before. And I will say this, don't eat everybody's chitlins. Watch how they prepare them. And even then, I don't advise eating chitlins this day and age. It's like you're eating pig guts. Ew. But back in the day, I was like, well, I'm hungry enough, I'll eat chitlins. I know what chitlins are. I'm from Mississippi. I'm from Mississippi. I know what chitlins are. I've ate chitlins. I've ate pork neck. Which, funny enough, pork neck's what they serve after all the fried chicken's gone at the gatherings. Yeah, you don't think I know about that type of crap. I do. But anyway, such as it is. Yeah, I don't typically eat pork this day and age, but I'm not going to talk about my dietary habits because, it just ain't for me. Or, it could just be served for a whole nother video in and of itself where you could just talk about dietary habits, what you can do to better your health. One, change your diet. Don't eat crap. Don't eat trash. Don't eat stuff that's, is commonly associated with bottom feeders. Like carp and gar. Don't eat that. Those are filthy algae eaters. But, moving on anyway, there was another team that tried to draft me. That was when I went to MSU. But, I did not go to school there. I was just doing something, but it was on the MSU campus in Starkville. And it was so funny because the head coach at the time, I walked past his office, and he was, on the phone with I would assume was possibly a donor or somebody that was donating the school money or some alumni that played for the team back in the day. And he was like, yeah, I tell you, we got a great team this year. I got these boys out here working out just fine. And he looked up and we locked eyes as I walked past his office. I waved at him. And he comes and he's like, hold on, I'll call you right back. I just saw the biggest SOB in my life walk right past my office. He'll make a great addition to the team. Click. And he comes running out of his office, and he comes up to me. He's like, hold on there, son. Hold up there, son. Come on, come here. What's your name? What's your name, son? So I told him, and we started talking. You know, I thought he was like just a offensive or a defensive coach. I didn't know he was the head coach. So we're talking, and you know, he's like, oh, give us some thoughts, son. You know, I forget what grade I was in, but he's like, oh, I hope you come join us. I'm like, oh, well, thanks anyway. So at that point, I had gone out to, you know, there was like some other teens there that I was with. You know, I was in a group with some other kids, and they were like, bro, do you not know who that was? And I'm like, was that one of the football coaches? And they were like, no, dude, that was the head football coach. I was like, okay, he was rather eccentric, you know, a nice enough guy. They were like, he wanted to draft you. Take the scholarship, dude. I just said, okay then. So that was the first time a big university or a big college, you know, wanted to take me in. We did go tour a couple of HBCUs, but that was when the school year was in session. That was actually funny that I went to the HBCUs and all the coaches were trying to draft me. They thought it was funny. I thought it was funny. But, you know, this is also where I kind of learned, you know, HBCUs are something. I'll just put it to you like that. You know, they wanted me to play anyway. So, that was also funny. You know, they were trying to get me to play, you know, play ball with them. So I thought it was funny, you know, these different coaches from these HBCUs were coming up talking to me, you know. Would I have went to an HBCU? I most likely would have, but my people couldn't afford to send me to an HBCU. And even with all the scholarships, it still would have been ridiculously expensive, and I didn't see myself taking out a student loan because, you know, you got to pay that back regardless. Student loans, they're federal, all right? I'm not going to get into the whole backstory about student loans and all that. I never took one out because if you do take them out, you got to pay it back regardless. So I never took one out, and I just said, you know what, I'm just going to go to community college. I'm down at community college, and the football coach is down there trying to get me to join, but I said, no thank you. I said, can I work out with y'all at least? Because, you know, at the time, I was training to be a pro wrestler while still attending college. They didn't think I was serious about, you know, they just didn't think, I was a pro wrestler until one of my friends who was a football player on this team said, no, he really is a pro wrestler, and then he brought them to one of my shows. And I was doing a hardcore match where, you know, we were getting thrown through tables and barbed wire and hitting each other with exploding, flaming barbed wire baseball bats and all that sort of thing. Not exactly a bright idea to do those types of matches, but, you know, they paid more. You know, they paid more. They paid just enough for you to go get a bottle of pills, bottle of painkillers, and a fifth. But it is what it is. Which, you know, I might talk about some of the combat sports I've did in another video. And I know I'm going to talk about rodeo and a whole nother event in and of itself. So, you know, not necessarily related to this video because, hey, I'm trying to keep it relative to football and some of the experiences I've had. Now, some of the football players that I was on teams with, they were cool, but then some of them, they were just assholes. You know, like the coaches right there, you know, stroking their ego, jacking off of the ego, if you will. Stroking the ego. And then moving on to, you know, stuff like that. You know, you just don't want to be around the one player that, you know, the coach is always stroking his ego and all that. And it's like, no, I don't. That's why I always said that football back in like my school years, that was like just nothing but one big, you know, ego stroke. And that just was a real big no for me. Because I just didn't care for it. But moving on, there was the whole thing. That was the big shaboom of it all. Yeah. Such as it is. Now, the final time I ever got drafted, by this point, I am out of college, you know. It was right around the time I had come out of the woods from my self-imposed exile, which I'm not going to get into what happened, but I kind of lived out in the woods for 5 years off the grid because I had went insane. And I just didn't want to be around people, but, you know, I came out of the woods at this point. I think it was about 2 weeks after I had walked out of the woods, cleaned up, shaved, trimmed my hair. You know, I got my mohawk mullet back, but, you know, still. And I did not know at the time that Deion Sanders had become coach for Jackson State. So I kind of ran into Deion Sanders at a Chinese restaurant. I ran into him at Ichiban over in Jackson. And he was with one of the other coaches and somebody else. I don't know who it was. Probably some member of the JSU staff, but, you know, they were talking. He sees me and he just comes over towards me. You know, apparently he thought I was, like, in my 20s because, you know, I look young. You know, like I said, in other videos, I do talk about how young I look without facial hair. But, you know, I keep a long goatee just so that way I'll look older. But, you know, if I did shave the goatee off and just went back to the handlebar mustache, or just completely go clean shaven, I will look like I am in my 20s. I will look like I had just turned 20. I'm just blessed to have great genetics, you know, to look as youthful as I do. But it was kind of funny because we're talking about it, and I said, well, I thank you for the offer, but I was like 28, I believe. I was like 27 or 28 at the time. I just looked at him and I said, well, sir, I'm like 28. You know, at this point, I'm in my 30s, so, yeah. And he's like, oh, you're that old? And I'm like, yeah. Like, sir, I am legitly in my 30s. Or, you know, I'm like in my 20s. I was like 28, 29, you know. That's what, it was one of those, but, you know. He was like, oh, that's nice. He's like, dang, you look great for your age. And I said, oh, thank you. He's like, what do you do to keep such a youthful appearance? And I said, oh, I just follow a traditional diet. Which at that point, you know, I was damn near lucky to make sure I had food to eat. I was living out in the woods, eating fish, you know, wild vegetables, wild fruits and berries. You know, I was very lucky to have that. Much, you know, such as it is. You know, don't really... Oh, excuse me. Getting a little bit tired at the moment. So, that's kind of how that conversation went. And it was kind of funny because when he introduced himself, and I'm like, Neon Dion? And he's like, yes, that's me. I'm like, oh, you played football back in the day. Oh, I watched some of your games back then. And, you know, I don't really trip out when I meet celebrities like that because it's like, you know, they're used to people tripping out over them. But, you know, this is actually some great life advice for people that want to get somewhere. When you treat the CEO and the janitor the same, you earn their respects. Because, you know, the janitor's going to be shocked that, you know, somebody treated him with such honor and dignity. And then, you know, the CEO, he's going to be shocked that somebody would treat him as an everyday person. So you tend to earn both of their respects because, you know, the one guy's going to be like, wow, what a stand-up guy. And the other one's like, that guy's got a good head on his shoulders. You know, things happen. That's just what I've always heard. You know, treat everybody the same, regardless of who they are. And there is another part too to that. You know, if somebody shows you who they are, believe them. You know, that's just what I was taught throughout life. And, you know, it's obviously gotten me this far. You know, compared to some of the other dumb crap that I've done, where I have been shot at, I've been stabbed. Well, came close to being stabbed, I should say. Been chased by the law a few times. It's just some of the craziest crap that I've done over the years. And, I live a much more cleaner lifestyle this day and age. But, sometimes I tend to look back on football, and I did have cousins that played in the NFL, and, they all told me the same thing about football. They said, the NFL, it's not for long. That's like even my cousin that played in the NFL, he didn't stay in it very long, and he did win a few Super Bowl rings. So, he said he got his money's worth out of it. He made sure to wrap the money up in all kinds of, passive incomes, so he wouldn't have to, hit a lick at a snake. He could just do his own thing with a farm. That was his whole thing. He just wanted to do his own stuff with his farm. He don't want to be bothered, and I ain't going to say what his name is, because, respect his privacy. And I do have friends that play in the NFL, and, respect their privacy too. And it's also kind of funny because even then, a lot of them never took football seriously. Outside of getting into the NFL, but yet when they got to play in the game, they found out mighty quick that all the football players got along. And even one of them told me straight up, they all get along just fine, but, in front of the camera, they got to sell the story. You got to act and sell the story. He said some of them do take the game seriously, but he said for the most part, most of the players don't. But they did say it was kind of funny because, they all try to outdo one another in terms of plays. And he does say that there is money on the line. Obviously if you win the Super Bowl, you get a bigger paycheck out of it. And one of them in particular actually played in one of the Super Bowls back during the pandemic. So that was a rather interesting thing. So, yeah, that's how he put it. Talking about his experience in, the NFL. That most of those guys get along, but, got to make the story look good. That's just his thing, not mine. His words, not mine. Don't take what I say seriously. Somebody's going to take what I say seriously, and they're going to be typing diatribes up in the comments. But, since Super Bowl is Sunday, as this video is going up, there's going to be some jackasses, throwing, slinging popcorn and soda all over the place. Going crazy. It's like, oh, no, what you doing? And popcorn's flying all over the place. Soda's getting spilt on the couch. Their woman's yelling at them. Their wife or girlfriend's yelling at them. Stuff like that. But, in all honesty, do I regret not going or, continuing football? I honestly don't, because at that point, it's like I've seen what it's done for my cousins and saw the good it's done, but I've also saw the bad. I can sit here and talk about all the good they have done, such as working with kids, charity work, them having a little bit of money to take care of everything. But the bad, a lot of them got health problems out of it. Some of them, they just lucky enough to walk in the morning. That's how one put it to me. He's like, man, you have no idea what it's like having hell getting up in the morning. So I kind of understand that. But since we're drawing close to the end of the video, this is how the game ended, which you're going to jump to the last bit of footage that you see, which, this is how the game ultimately ended, And yeah, I have been using the Super Bowl teams that are going in, the Eagles and the Chiefs, and I do understand, fans do tend to ruin sports teams because they take the game so seriously. It's like that's their only identity. Which at that point, it's ridiculous. I'm not even going to talk about the halftime shows because, I just don't particularly care for the Super Bowl. You have every team's competing in it every year. If the Super Bowl's your thing, have at it. I'm going to go watch the Super Bowl with my granddad because that's just what I do every year. For every big bowl game, I go watch it with my grandparents because, why not? And plus that, my granddad does tend to drop a little bit of knowledge at his old age. And I'm going to go record some more parts to my Valentine's Day video that is going to be uploaded on the 14th. So other than that, shoot the like button with a grip skiddly if you enjoyed, and please do comment down below your football stories. And I do say do comment those stories because me and Slade might read those for the little project we got coming out in. But, other than that, be sure to smash the subscribe button today and click the notification bell icon, and do share these videos around because it does help my channel out. There's links in the description if you want to watch Let's Plays, such as Dukes of Hazzard, the Stuntman, Tony Hawk, whatever. So other than that, y'all have a great day and a balling weekend. Don't do anything stupid, and God forbid, don't get so uppity over a football game you're throwing popcorn and soda everywhere. Don't do that.